I think it was Eala is the match that I was looking at, and there was people like wrapped around the stadium just trying to get in, which is pretty crazy. And I mean, it's cool to see and it's exciting, but obviously, you know, for fan experience, I don't know because I'm not living that same experience, but hopefully the event kind of continues.
Right now in women's tennis, few names carry as much weight as Jessica Pegula, but this time, she's not making headlines for a forehand winner or a deep tournament run. She's speaking out, and she's not soft about it. Pegula has taken direct aim at the WTA, and she's doing it to defend one of the brightest young stars the sport has seen in years, Eala of the Philippines. If you've followed Eala's rise, then you already understand, she's more than just a promising prospect. In the Philippines and across Asia, she represents something bigger. She's become a symbol of possibility, of discipline, of what happens when relentless work meets undeniable talent. And fans haven't just noticed, they've mobilized. At the Australian Open, the atmosphere around her matches was something special. Supporters flew in from Manila, from across Southeast Asia, from communities scattered all over the world. These weren't casual spectators filling empty seats. These were loyal believers who booked flights, saved money, arranged time off work, all for the chance to see her compete in person. That kind of devotion, most players spend an entire career trying to build it, and yet, when all that passion converged in Melbourne, the WTA made a decision that stunned a lot of people. They scheduled Eala on a smaller court. That's the decision that set Pegula off. She didn't dance around it. She said it clearly. Eala brought a global audience to the tournament. Fans crossed continents to watch her. And when they finally arrived, ready to create a moment, ready to be part of something unforgettable, there wasn't enough space to hold them. Just think about that. You have one of the biggest crowd magnets at the event, a young player generating energy that most veterans would envy. And instead of showcasing that on a main stage, you tuck her onto a court that can't even fit the people who showed up specifically for her. That's not just a scheduling oversight. That's a missed opportunity.
Fans that we're getting and making that still an enjoyable experience for them. But I did see some of the courts have like lines getting in and it seems really busy, and I saw some reports that it's some of their busiest.
Jessica Pegula didn't sugarcoat a single word. She called it what she believed it was, disrespect. Disrespect toward Eala. Disrespect toward the fans who showed up for her. And honestly, when you picture what those supporters went through, it's hard to argue. People stood in long lines for hours, hoping, just hoping, they'd make it inside in time to see their Filipino star compete. Some had flown halfway across the world. Some had spent money they probably shouldn't have. And after all of that effort, many never even made it through the gates. The courts were too small. The seats ran out. Capacity hit its limit. So what happened? Fans who traveled thousands of miles were left outside, craning their necks for a glimpse, refreshing their phones for updates, or worse, missing the match entirely because there simply wasn't room. That's more than a scheduling hiccup. That feels like a message. Intentional or not, the signal was clear. You're not ready for the main stage. And that's exactly what makes this sting. Because that message doesn't match reality. It doesn't match the turnout. It doesn't match the energy. It doesn't match what Eala has built. Pegula went even further. She revealed that she'd been told this was one of the biggest, if not the biggest, crowds the Australian Open had ever seen. And a massive part of that surge, Eala. Let that sink in. One of the most electric atmospheres in tournament history. And the player driving it wasn't given a court big enough to hold her audience. Pegula openly questioned why Eala wasn't placed on a larger stage. Why not give her the arena that matches the moment? Why not lean into the momentum instead of limiting it? Those are fair questions. And so far, the answers haven't satisfied anyone. But Pegula hinted at something even deeper. She suggested the possibility that maybe, just maybe, the WTA isn't entirely comfortable with what they're seeing from Eala. Think about the implications of that. Here's a young athlete who has ignited an entire region. She's pulling in viewers from across Asia. She's opening doors in markets tennis has spent years trying to break into. She's bringing fresh eyes, fresh energy, and a whole new wave of passion into the sport. That should be celebrated, promoted, put front and center. Instead, the way this played out makes it feel sidelined, maybe even suppressed. And Pegula wasn't the only voice raising concerns. Novak Djokovic, one of the most accomplished players the sport has ever seen, also spoke up. Djokovic called Eala the greatest tennis player the Philippines has ever produced. He said she deserves respect, real respect, and he agreed that the way her matches were scheduled, the court assignments, the logistics, contributed significantly to the challenges she faced during the tournament. When Novak Djokovic weighs in, people listen. This isn't just frustrated fans on social media. These are established champions, legends of the game, voices that carry weight inside locker rooms and boardrooms alike. And they're all pointing to the same thing. Something here doesn't add up.
Things like that happen. I mean, it's you could argue that it was, maybe a poor schedule, and maybe they could schedule him on a bigger court. Yes, but again, she's so young and she's just coming through. I saw the other day with Alex Eala, that's been a talk, and which is understandable. There's some players coming from respective countries, like she's coming from Philippines, which is now a big deal. She's been the biggest ever, tennis player from that country, which is a big country, and there's a big interest.
And here's what makes this even harder to ignore. This doesn't feel new. This isn't one strange decision you can brush off as a simple scheduling mistake. If you've really followed Alexandra Eala's path on the WTA tour, you've seen moments like this before. Moments where things just seem to tilt against her in ways you don't typically see happen to others. Go back to the Australian Open qualifiers. Eala was locked in a crucial rally. She struck a shot that landed clearly inside the line. You could see the mark on the court. It was in, plain and simple, but the call came back out. Frustrating? Absolutely. But it didn't stop there. Instead of correcting the call and awarding her the point, officials ordered the entire point to be replayed. In professional tennis, that's not standard. The ball is either in or it's out. You make the call, you own it, and the match moves forward. You don't just reset the rally because things got uncomfortable. Yet somehow, when it involved Eala, the solution was to start over. And what happened next revealed everything about who she is. She didn't explode. She didn't panic. She walked calmly to the chair umpire, looked them straight in the eye, and said, steady and controlled, "I know what you're doing." That wasn't emotion talking. That was awareness. That was confidence. She refused to be rattled. She refused to let a questionable decision steal her focus. She called it out, and then she went right back to work. And she won. Not only that, she powered her way all the way to the final round of qualifying. That's resilience. That's composure under pressure. That's the kind of mental strength you can't teach. Then came another moment, this time against Iga Swiatek, a multiple Grand Slam champion and one of the most dominant forces in women's tennis in recent years. For a young player like Eala, just sharing the court with Swiatek is significant. It's the kind of match that can define a breakthrough. And right in the middle of that battle, as Eala was finding rhythm and building momentum, an official approached her about items in her backpack. During the match, at a critical moment, the interruption created a scene. It disrupted her flow. And the timing? It raised eyebrows. When you step back and connect all of it, the smaller court, despite overwhelming demand, the controversial officiating call, the unexpected mid-match interruption, a pattern starts to emerge. And it's not a good look for the WTA, because what it suggests is this: one of the most exciting, marketable, globally supported young players in the sport isn't being given the stage or the protection that matches her impact. Jessica Pegula sees it. Novak Djokovic sees it. Millions of fans see it. Alexandra Eala deserves better. The fans who crossed oceans to support her deserve better. And honestly, the sport deserves better. Here's the reality. Eala isn't fading away. She's going to keep grinding. She's going to keep improving. She's going to keep building something that goes far beyond rankings or trophies. The only real question is whether the WTA will recognize what's happening in front of them. Will they choose to embrace this moment, to treat her with the fairness, respect, and visibility she's earned? Because she's not just a promising prospect anymore. She's a phenomenon. And it's time the organization started acting like they understand that. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think the WTA is deliberately overlooking Alexandra Eala? Or is this simply poor scheduling and management? Did they drop the ball by not putting her on a bigger court despite that massive turnout? And will voices like Jessica Pegula and Novak Djokovic actually push the organization to change? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're an Eala supporter, make your voice heard.